back. We are back. It's been a little bit of a hiatus with our scheduling, but we are back with another episode of the Pitcher Perfect podcast. Holly, college season has kicked off. We are 2 weekends in. I think we have a lot to talk about because holy cow, has it been an offensive season so far?
Yes, it has. I'm like, even just looking at the scores, it's crazy. Like how some of the teams, like I was looking at some of the scores, and I know like so was it Saturday, UCLA gave up like 11 runs both games, and then they came back Sunday and turned it around with pretty much the same pitching staff. And so it's like, it's kind of crazy, like the runs that people are putting up, and then some of the lopsided scores, and then the next day the team rebounds, which I think is also good because sometimes this can be a really like good momentum in one direction for a team. Obviously, preseason, like they get things going. And then sometimes, it's like the start of a very long, unfortunate season for some teams. So it's nice to see when teams rebound. And it seems like everybody's kind of fighting, like they have a bad game, then they have a good game. And then just like a lot of good games. I watched a lot of good games. The Clearwater Invitational was so fun to watch from home. I was at my daughter's games yesterday and I had my iPad set up just watching games. Like I cannot tear myself away from the college games. If you're not watching college games right now, oh my goodness, are you missing out? Because I have missed college softball and there's some great ones out there. And I got to watch a couple games that you were calling as well. And that's always a pleasure to listen to your voice and hear your insight. So what about the games that you were calling this weekend? How was that?
Yeah, well, let's go back. Like opening weekend, I had the UTSA Invitational, which had, I think, a lot of eyes on it. And props I'm going to give it publicly to UTSA because a lot of places do not broadcast unless their team is in the tournament, or I mean, in the current game. And UTSA committed to broadcasting all 9 games, so even games they weren't in. So I got to call Texas, Washington, Texas, Nebraska, Nebraska, Washington, and then UTSA against those 3 teams too. So opening weekend was great. We got Jordy Fromm, formerly Jordy Ball. Now Jordy Fromm was out there. Washington with their pitching staff. Texas with Tegan Kavan. Cam Salmon has kind of stepped into that number 2 role right now for them. She's a California native out there near you guys. So it's been fun to see that. Opening weekend was just, and again, though, like Texas beat Nebraska in the first game, and I want to say it was 11-6 or something like that, or Washington, Nebraska had a couple games that were back and forth. UTSA actually took Nebraska full 7 and it was 6-3 and runners on base. Like they had situations to possibly tie it and go ahead like 2. So it was crazy to watch. And then this past weekend, I went down the other side of I-35 if you're here in Central Texas, and I went to Texas. The big matchup there was Texas-Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State with Karen Kumar known for their power, but was fun to watch. But again, you're talking about scoring. I mean, I had a 14-6 run rule. A
Wow.
5-inning run rule of 14-6. Like who thinks that's how your run rule is going to
Right.
come into effect? The crazy part is, and I understand it, and you and I both have pitched in college, so you get it, is you're not your sharpest week 1, week 2. You want to be at your best come conference and then continue that into postseason. But the biggest thing I was seeing is that these offenses now, if you make a mistake, like no pitcher got a mistake to slip by.
Yep.
Very rarely did that mistake where sometimes in travel ball in high school, you can slip and throw one like maybe belt high down the middle and you get away with it. No, the first 2 weeks, every mistake was not just hit, but like punished.
Yes.
And so, as I'm analyzing, trying to talk about what pitchers need to do better, gosh, man, live at the knees and live at the corners.
Mm-hmm.
Jordy Fromm looked much better last night against Texas Tech in her relief appearance. I will also tip my hat. Like I got to call Nebraska weekend 1 and then watch them in Clearwater weekend 2. Their freshman, Alexis Jensen, lefty, has some great stuff. I don't know if you guys ever played that. We never played Nebraska Gold.
Was that the lefty? I thought she was on Lady Sluggers. No, I thought they
Oh,
they
maybe
have
she
a
was.
lefty. I'm pretty sure that they've got 2 lefties, and I don't know. Am I thinking about Texas Tech? I need to Google
Okay.
this because I
Anyways,
know there is a lefty. Yeah,
we
that's
didn't see her in travel ball at all. But weekend 1, she had some good stuff, but it was kind of it was either a strikeout or they got barrel to it. Weekend 2, her spots were shored up. I don't want to say perfectly, but so much better to where it wasn't so many barrels in between strikeouts. And she was able to locate her changeup, which, as we've talked about plenty of times, locating your changeup can be night and day difference.
Yeah.
for your outcome. So she started a lot, and then they brought Jordy Fromm in. Jordy looked much better against Texas Tech last night as far as locations and consistency. I think sometimes there's just as much as everyone's excited about week one, now you have an umpire, like a real umpire. You have a new team. So it's like you're just not sharp all the time. And
Right.
I get it. I don't expect them all to be sharp. I was just shocked at how many mistakes got absolutely punished the first 2 weeks. But yeah, like you said, I mean, and then there's pitching staffs that, yes, like you mentioned, UCLA gets punished and then turns around and has a great game. So it's all about, can you get back on the horse, and can you get back on the horse without doubting your capabilities? And I think that's the hugest thing, because so many pitchers start to just doubt what they're capable of as soon as it gets hard.
Right. I think talking about the mistakes that are getting hit, that really goes back to our first, really every episode, but especially our first few episodes about mastery. And, every pitcher's going to make mistakes. The best pitchers just make less of them. And, when you really understand that the hard hits that you're going to give up, and those especially lopsided scores when you're going to give up a lot of runs, more likely than not, like you're just making too many mistakes, elevating the ball too much. And that's something that you can adjust and fix. And so, like, when you're talking about getting back on the horse, it's like, it's the pitchers that are able to not go down the rabbit hole and think, oh, I pitched horrible. This is, and start doubting themselves. It's like, go back, and this can be at every age, but go back, look at video, and the balls that are getting hit hard, look at where those pitches were. Like, if you're giving up home runs and the balls, like you said, are elevated and they're over the wide of the plate, well, obviously, like, those are going to get hit, but those are fixable. And put those balls in better spots. And then, like the teams we mentioned, UCLA, you turn around, you have a better day the next day. But being able to look from the outside looking in and just look at, where am I missing the pitches that are getting hit? And then how can I adjust those pitches without going, like I said, down that rabbit hole of like, oh my gosh, and this is going to be a tough season and I'm not ready for this, and just start doubting yourself. It's like, sometimes it's just like a 1-2 ball adjustment. And that's the difference between a pop up and a home run, or, a hard line drive and a ground ball can be a 1-2 ball adjustment. But go back to work in the bullpen and just make those small adjustments, put the ball in better spots, work, like you said, at the knees and lower. Those balls tend to stay in the park. Ground balls don't go out of the park. So the
Right.
lower that you can work in the zone, that's an adjustment any pitcher can make when set your intentions in the right place.
Right. And I think the other piece is also, when you say you go watch, go back and watch your film, see where pitches were, is be realistic too. Like sometimes, and, first weekend out, I watched Alexis DeBoer, drop barrel on a pitch that was low and in at the knees. And if I'm a pitching coach, I look at that pitch, and other than how did we set it up, there was not much else that could be done on the pitch she hit. She hit a good pitch. And if they hit a good pitch, that's fine. It happens to everybody. I think sometimes we get in this like perfect pitches aren't supposed to get hit.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do. I threw a waist pitch drop ball over someone's shoestrings, and I literally mean it was like this high off their shoestrings. I threw it in and low, and I watched her golf it out of the park. And I just turned around and was like, wow, like what else am I
Yeah.
going to do about that? Right. Because it did what it was supposed to do, and she did what she was supposed to do. It happens. So I
Yeah.
think as pitchers, it's about regrouping and figuring out, maybe it's time to start throwing that pitch that you've been working on, but maybe you need to show it just to say, hey, I can go to this quadrant, or I can throw this speed.
Yeah.
So I think it's been fun, though, to watch. I am interested to see how a lot of these pitching staffs end up adjusting throughout the course of season, because a lot of them are giving up a lot of runs. And, Texas included. I think Tegan looked better this weekend. Hey, that's got to go out of here. Take that from the living room. Go. I told you mommy's working. I'm going to mark it so you can go back and cut it out.
Do I have to? I kind of like that.
Well, if you want to keep it in, visitors, listeners, this is what happens when you have a 2-year-old who wants to watch one thing and then won't sit and watch it while you work.
I have a 9-year-old that does the same thing, so it's all right.
But Tegan looked better in week 2. Cam Salmon looked good in week 1. Looked good in week 2 as well. So Texas is in the same boat, basically. But I think the key that I'm interested to watch is, even with our stud pitchers. So let's talk, the Pickens, the Jordys,
Right.
Nija, Tegan, Tinsley Taylor at UCLA. Trying to think who else. There's a couple others, but how long do you leave them in the game, especially early? Like, I know you want to get endurance to where, hey, can they throw 7 at some point? But I think there's some points too where you need to win the big game. And I think Nebraska actually probably did it the best, starting Jensen against Tech and then bringing Fromm in, where Nebraska timed Jordy up fourth, fifth inning, and all of a
Well,
sudden, it got big real fast. So the question's going to be, I don't know how much longer we're going to see a lot of complete games out of people. I really don't.
yeah. Yeah,
I hate to
I
say that because I love complete games. I love pitcher dominated games. I want to see strikeouts, but I'm not seeing it.
I know. The game is shifting. The game is definitely shifting, and a lot of teams are going to staff mentalities for sure. But gosh, it is. I love seeing a pitcher that just goes and goes and goes. It's like you start rooting for him, and it's like I love seeing that out of a pitcher. But I understand the importance of staffs as well. But you're right, there is definitely a shift in the game.
I want to get your opinion. So I had typed, I occasionally put random things on X, right? And I had put in the first two weekends, offense is crazy dominant. And Twitter follower or X follower, I still say Twitter, said, do you think too much emphasis is placed on velocity and not enough on true movement? Of course, combining the two is the ultimate dream, but it seems like in the grand landscape of travel, pitchers are taught velocity with little emphasis on anything else. You know
Absolutely.
where I stand on this.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. Absolutely, yes, yes. I mean, it's like, movement, spin, spot, speed, if you have all of them, that's wonderful, that's great, but in the hierarchy, we asked your dad the same thing, we got the
Yeah.
same answer from him. We've asked quite a few people how they would rate those, and pretty much everybody that has either pitched at the highest levels, had success at the highest levels, coached at the highest levels, been a parent to an athlete at the highest levels, is all gonna rank speed at the bottom of that list. Not to say that, not to work on it, it's not important, but it's not the most important. It shouldn't be the priority. I'll say that. That like if you're going to prioritize something, that should not be your number one priority for sure.
Yeah.
And it's like how often even in conversation, I want to say like when I hear people talk about a pitcher and the first thing is like she's really good, she throws hard. Like that's all you hear people say that all the time and I'm like, tell me you don't really know about pitching without telling me you don't really know about pitching or the game if that's like that is your standard of like, "Oh, yeah, we've got this pitcher, she's good, she throws hard." Like, that shouldn't be the standard. Like, she can be good and throw hard. I'm not saying,
Mhm.
like, that that's not a good thing, but, like, that's
Yeah.
not the standard of success, that is the end all be all. So, yes, long answer long, 100%. There's too much emphasis on
Well, that's what I said, and I heard, and I wish I'd written down which pitcher it was. I want to say it was one of Amanda Scarborough's games, but they said the pitcher was throwing like 61 to 63, and they were like, and look at this, she's getting all these weak outs or these strikeouts, and I'm sitting here going, hello, lived at 61 to 63. Like, you don't have to throw hard because again, in pitchers, you have to find your fine line. Like, where is your movement not the greatest, but the sharpest? So,
right.
like, where's your movement the sharpest at what speed? And how do you control throwing it at that speed? Because could I throw a drop at 65 miles an hour? Yes. But let me tell you, at 63, that thing looked way different than it does at 65
Yeah,
because your spin and speed ratio has to match. Like,
yeah,
and I don't think as pitching coaches, and I say I try to help athletes find that. And sometimes you get the parents, they're like, no, we just want to throw harder. Okay, then you just go on and throw harder. Like, I'm showing you where it moves, and that movement is going to get more weak hits and swing and misses than speed because you can rev machines up to 72, 73 now. Like, back in the
uh-huh,
day, you couldn't.
yeah,
Monica Abbott, like, we didn't have machines that went that high, right? Now we do. And yes, you have machines that can mimic some movement, but it's not as it mimics movement, but movement is also very individualized. My drop is not like your drop.
right.
Um,
Obviously, nobody's trying like
well,
your drunk.
but you know what I mean. But yeah, I heard them talking about this pitcher and they're like, and then, she's only throwing. And I'm like, why are we making it an only throwing 61 to 63? Like, you can be good at that level.
Yeah,
Like, do I think there's a certain speed you have to throw? Yes, I think you have to throw above 60 to really be good in Division One. You do. You can't throw 55 and be elite in Division One. But do you have to throw 65 plus? Because I've heard some people say like, oh, well, this college won't look at you unless you throw 65 plus. And I'm like, well, cool. I never would have played there. Because yes, speed's the big, bright, shiny object. But if you're making people swing and miss at all
yeah,
sorts of crazy stuff, I'd rather that. Because
yeah.
when in doubt, I'd much rather swing and miss.
Well, it's funny because we have our range ring targets here, that I've been I've been posting a lot about these on the range, and it's not just the range rings, it's targets in general, right? Target practice
Mhm.
we've talked about here. And I had somebody comment like this past week that was like, I've tried, my daughter doesn't want to throw into them. She doesn't like it. She likes throwing to a catcher.
We all do.
Okay, yeah, I get it, but and here's my thing is like, okay, well, I get that everybody likes the pop of a catcher's glove, but like what you're gonna like more is the results you end up getting when come game time. And that's kind of the same thing. The reason I'm bringing that up is how it relates to speed is like, yeah, I get that you like that you like when the radar gun says 65. It feels good. You like to hear the catcher's glove pop. It feels good. But getting hitters out in big moments, I promise you feels better. And if that means dialing it down, like you said, to 61 or, doing whatever is going to make you the most effective come game time, that feels so much better than any number on the radar gun in practice and in the bullpen. Your results on the field and what enables you to get hitters out is going to feel better than all of that. And so don't get stuck on that feeling good of being able to hold the radar gun up and be like, yeah, I threw, 67 today. Like, okay, that's great. At the end of the day, getting good hitters out is going to feel better than all of that. And that really is, it's being patient and not chasing, like you said, the bright, like shiny thing that feels good in the moment, but doesn't give you overall long-term success.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that leads me into the question with the other topic we had talked about today was the video I shared of Kara Lawson with about urgency. Is it easier to get wrapped up in speed because that's easier to get good at
Yeah.
than it is movement and location?
Yeah, I would say probably yeah. Yeah, I haven't really thought I watched so for those of you that are watching right now, the video that Kat's talking about, Kara Lawson, she's a like basketball coach, a great
Mhm.
all-time basketball coach. And there's a video of her talking about the importance of urgency in greatness and how urgency relates basically to greatness. And that needing the important things badly enough with clarity and desire and really going like being hungry for success. So that's the video that Kat's talking about and how that in my opinion, yeah, I haven't thought about how it relates to that, but yeah, like getting really good at the little things, mastering your spin, your speed, your location, going back to the stories that you've told about how you did that in the driveway for months and months and months before you ever threw those pitches in a game. Those mundane things, they can get boring. We've talked about that in on these episodes before. They can get boring. And I don't know if easy would be the word that I would use about speed, but it's definitely yeah, I guess easy would be well, it's funny because it's like we say easy, but then it's like nobody really ever attains. They just keep going and going and going. It's
Right.
like I hit 60, now I want to hit 62, 63, and then
Yes.
they're hyper focused on this one thing and they're never happy with it. But yeah, it is, when she talks in the video about urgency, she talks about when things get hard or like they're boring, like I said, mundane, those little things that you just push through and you continue to do it. And I think there's a lot of pitchers that aren't willing to do the boring things. They aren't willing to do the things that set you apart, the way that throwing in your driveway for what 9 months did you say before you ever threw like certain pitches in a game. There's not many pitchers that are willing to do that, but again, you go back to what feels best is when you see the results in a game. So it doesn't feel good in the driveway for 9 months to be like doing those little mundane things over and over and over again. But what feels great is to get on the stage and the stages that you've been on and have success at the highest levels and see those things pay off. But it does take patience. It takes a lot of patience, and it's not the big shiny thing. Speed is the big shiny thing, speed and home runs.
Yeah.
And you gotta be willing to do the other little things, to set yourself apart.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I loved the video. I shared it and then thought about it in the context of because she was talking about it in obviously basketball, but also life. And to start it, she says the more urgent person usually wins, and that's true. And then I was sitting there and thinking about it, and was like, how does this parlay into softball and pitching specifically? And I was like, you know what? I think when we talk about sense of urgency, a lot of times we're talking about it as you have the person who just kind of ho hums through life, and you're like, Can you get a little like motor? Can your motor
Yeah.
turn on a little bit? But I think it's also a mentality of how quickly do you want to try to figure out how to execute something? And it's not rushing the process, but how are you going to be so focused on wanting to be good and making sure your pitches are that good in the bullpen to where then they're that good in the game? Because if you don't have that sense of urgency to locate and throw, if you say, like, say your pitching coach gives you a workout and it's like, hey, how many curveballs out of 20 are going to be good? Well, if you give me that, I'm sitting here going, oh, I'm getting 18. Like
Mhm.
my urgency is going to be 18. And the second I miss number 3, we're done. I'm starting over. I'm not even going to throw all 20. I'm going to start over because I am going to get 18. Where someone without urgency is probably like, oh, 15 is pretty good. So I'm going to throw and I'm just going to throw. Then when they get down to the last 5 and they've already missed 4, so they can only miss 1 more, now we're trying to throw with urgency, but you haven't been throwing with urgency the whole time. So you can't
Mhm.
just turn it on if you don't practice with it. And
Right.
so, I mean, I think it can flip flop with intensity, but I just think urgency is different than urgency is a want and intensity is like a mindset, if that makes sense.
So how would you relate urgency to what you prioritize? I mean, I feel like there's a pretty close connection, right? So how does
There
that
is. There is. So I will like, let me use this example. We've said plenty of times, I didn't really have a great off speed pitch till I learned my off speed curveball, right? So I had no changeup. So for me, one, in a not great mindset, so please don't adopt this one if you're a pitcher listening. I knew I had other stuff where if I had a changeup that day, great, but I knew I could get people out otherwise,
Mhm.
right? So my sense of urgency to execute my changeup was not there. So when they said, hey, throw 10, I literally just threw 10. And if they were great, check it off. If they weren't, we'll figure it out tomorrow, hopefully. Or when we would warm it up before a game, if it was on, cool, we can use it today. If it's not, oh well, we'll figure it out. So I didn't have any type of urgency to really learn an off-speed pitch. And in the long run, backfired because there are times where a changeup would have been great. And now again, I get it. A lot of people will be like, oh, well, your career unfolded fine. It did unfold fine. I'm not complaining. But I will say, knowing that that was not a great pitch and I had others, I didn't have an urgency to learn it and master it the same way I did other things. So yes, my priorities were there was always a sense of urgency to feel the rise ball and the drop ball. Curveball I almost usually always had a good feel with that because naturally, again, across the body, that was my forte. But and then an off speed pitch was kind of the last one. But I think if you go into your bullpen and I'm just gonna throw day, there's no sense of urgency.
Mhm.
If it's and again, you can throw for the first 20 minutes to get loose and just throw without urgency. I have had moments of that. I'm not saying you're like locked in and everything has to be perfect from pitch 1. But as soon as you start whatever your workout, working on pitches, locating pitches, whatever variable part of your workout, or even if you're block working and you're working on the rise ball, there has to be a sense of urgency that you're trying to get the right spin and the right spot and see the movement through the zone where you want it. It's
Yeah.
not, hey, I'm trying to throw a rise ball above their head with good spin, but I'm just going to chuck it there and it never looks close to the zone. So I think there becomes this, and I was thinking of it because I think that might be kind of the differentiator in your good to great and great to elite pitchers is I guarantee you, and I think I've said it once or twice on here before, but the biggest compliment I have ever gotten was Jerry Glasgow. He coached us with the Pride, and I was in year, I don't know, 7, 8, 9. I mean, I'm well into my pro career at this point. And he comes and he goes, I am impressed at how intense your bullpens are. And I was like, okay, thank you. Like, he goes, every day, like, you are striving to be you. I said, well, yes. He's like, you don't let yourself have a pitch off. And he'll tell a story. I don't remember it, but like, I think he said good drop ball, like, oh, that was a good drop ball. And I said, no, it wasn't. It was supposed to be here and it didn't. So we're going to do it again. And like, he's like, but you were so particular. But there was a sense of urgency because if I say I'm throwing an 0-2 drop ball, I can throw a really good drop ball. But if it's not where I want it for 0-2, it is not a good 0-2 drop ball. And I think that's one of the best compliments I've ever gotten is because he only saw game day before he became our coach. And then he got to see non-game day and what makes game day essentially look easy because the hard work and I probably put more pressure on myself in the bullpen than I do in a game. Or did. I shouldn't talk in present tense. I don't pitch anymore, but
I mean,
don't
you
want to
could.
start AI rumors. There's enough AI
You
articles
have an
going around.
Olympics coming up, you know.
No, someone asked me like, "So are you coming out for the" I'm like, "No, we're done now. We're good and done." Not trying to do that. But if you don't put that urgency in, and it's the same way when we talk to our kids or whoever about having a sense of urgency in life. Like it's not in there every day, right? It's
Right.
something that is conditioned and or taught or preached enough that they start to get it. But I think as pitchers, we have to start to think that way too, is like at what point in your bullpen it's not just a focus. Like I can focus on throwing a rise ball in this certain quadrant. And when I'm first learning it, I probably am focused on that. As I understand my spin and I feel more comfortable with my release and I understand what the movement's doing, now that there's an urgency to, if you say when you throw five good, I want to throw five and be done, like go to the next thing and learn. I don't want to be like, oh, okay, 5 out of 10, cool, I did it. Like, so yes, there's a time where you focus and you work on it. And then there's a time where it's like, okay, teach yourself to have that urgency of it's time to execute, I'm executing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And I talk about myself too. And I do a very much mixed bullpens with my athletes when I work with them. I don't do as many lessons anymore. But how many times do you tell a kid like, hey, you have to hit this spot and they miss and they're like, oh, let me do a redo. No, you don't get a redo. You don't get a redo in a game.
Yep.
If we're working on it, yes, you get a redo. Like if we're just trying, but if it's a pitch that you should already be able to hit that spot, nope. Ball one, go to your next pitch.
Mhm.
Have the urgency to hit the next pitch.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I went with that video. It just really got me thinking, and I think that's a huge one for pitchers is there's an urgency to execute your pitch, not to get the hitter out, because again, we don't control that,
Right.
but to execute your pitch. And if you don't have that urgency in the bullpen, it's going to be hard not just to have it in the game, but have it in the hard moments of the game. So you
Yeah.
can't all of a sudden have bases loaded and are like for me, I told you there was no urgency with the changeup ever. Every time I tried to say, hey, I have a changeup and I thought it was good. And someone's like, no, you slow down. No, you're telegraphing it. No. And I'm like, all right, never mind. Throw it back out. But since there's no urgency to throw in the bullpen, there is no way I'm trying to throw that pitch 3-2 full count, 2 outs, bases loaded.
Right.
Like it's not because
Well,
I'm not going to execute it.
if pitchers have an urgency to do what's going to make them great, right? To do what's going to give them success. I think it also has to start with them understanding, and this goes back to talking about the speed thing, but understanding what is it that's going to make them great. A clear understanding of that, because I could harp on it all day about the speed thing, but I think that there's just such a misunderstanding of what it is that makes a pitcher great. And when we can be really clear, and for pitchers, that's why watching college games are so important, and watching softball and having an understanding of not just, what you learn in your lessons, whatever, but like the game as a whole. What's going to give me success? And then put your urgency, if you have that sense of like, want this, I have a fire, I want to be great, understand what great pitchers have in their toolbox, and it's not just speed. So if your urgency is to be great, that's your want, that's your desire, that's what you want to go after. Okay, now dial it back, figure out what those things are. It's, I got to be great at my spin. Like I got to have urgency with that. I have to have urgency with locating my pitches, making sure the ball is going where it needs to go. And then that ties into the bigger picture of that urgency to be great. But I think too often pitchers they want to be great so bad, but they don't know what great looks like.
Right.
And so now they're have this fire and urgency to do the not the right thing, like the wrong things in their bullpen. They're not working on the right things.
Yeah. Thinking about it too, I think if you can cultivate urgency, that is the closest thing you will get to mimicking the feelings and the emotions in a game. Like, again, I remember, I think back to when I unretired, obviously during COVID and stuff, Joey had to catch me. And he didn't wear, at first he started with gear and then slowly there were no shin guards. He'd wear the face mask and, people would be like, can't believe you're doing that. And he's like, when she tells you where it's going, it goes there. Like, I don't really have to be ready for to be crossed up or maybe, get knocked on the wrong side of the body. But he'll tell people, he's like, literally after a bullpen will be like, that was a B plus, he was like, I don't know the difference. It all looks good, but she would talk it out. And it's a matter of you get in a game. Yes, there will be times you go play your first ranked opponent in college or you're at Alliance Nationals in the championship series for the first time. There are emotions that you cannot replicate. But if you have a sense of urgency, you are replicating at least intensified state of being.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that urgency to execute well in your bullpen, don't you're it's almost like you're putting pressure on yourself, but it's not pressure.
I know, yeah.
Do you know what I'm
But it's
saying?
like a need to. Like
Yes.
I'm refusing to wait. Like I'm gonna get this done. Like
Right.
I'm going to do it. It's a clarity, it's a desire. It's like a one of the things that I took from her videos, like when you go through the motions, growth stalls. So it's gonna be the opposite of that, obviously, is like you're not like I'm going to do this. Like I'm not waiting. Like this is I don't know. It's not pressure's maybe not the right word, but it's a have to. Like
Yeah.
I'm going to.
Yes, it's going to, and if you don't do it, you don't you don't lament over it. You can your 2 to 5 seconds of like, "Ah," but and then next pitch, "Okay, I'm gonna execute this one." And then you can go back to it later if you want or do another sequence. Like, you can always add that, but I think that urgency, I think, is what allows a lot of pitchers to feel really good in the bullpen. Or I should say the lack of urgency, to feel good in the bullpen, but then they can't translate it. Is
Right.
because it's like, "Oh, I'm executing it in here, but I'm executing it in here with no even self-expectation of having to execute it. I'm just executing it."
Yeah. I had a conversation with Lisa Fernandez in the summer, and she was talking about how, like, she doesn't ever say and doesn't let her athletes ever say, like, try, the word try. I'm going to try.
Mm.
Because when you say try, it kind of gives you an out. And so it's saying, like, no, I'm going to do this. It's not, I'm going to try to hit 4 out of 5 on this pitch. No, I'm going to hit 4 out of 5 on this pitch. And I think that also ties in with that urgency in the bullpens. It's like, you don't give yourself that out, like, "I'm gonna try to have a good bullpen today." Like, no,
No.
I'm going to this is what I'm gonna work on, and this is what I'm gonna execute. And, we're not perfect if we don't, whatever, but being able to, like, push through and have a really clear intention on what you're doing, and then, again, not having I love what she said about that, is not saying, like, I'm gonna try to do it today." No, I'm going to do it. And having that sense of a have to and urgency in everything you do surrounding the sport or what you want out of the sport or what do you want out of pitching, you have to have that, like, fire, I guess, and the expectation of yourself and the standard of yourself that you're gonna hold yourself to, that I'm gonna do this, like, I'm gonna get this done. This is not a I'm gonna try, like, I'm gonna do this.
Right, there's a point where you're confident enough with the work you've put in that you say, "This is I'm gonna do it." And I think that comes with too, like, I'm thinking to, like, my lessons when I let them pick their own sequences is, like, how do they talk about it? Because I know when I say again, when Joey was catching, I would say, "I'm going to throw a curveball here, a drop ball here, because that's gonna get the hitter leaning, and then I'm gonna bust him up and in." Like, I would talk out how my pitch was supposed to affect the hitter.
With
Mind
certain
you, there's no hitter. There's no one else in this facility but Joey and I. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna jam him in, then I'm gonna go away to get him leaning, and then I'm gonna bust him up and in. But I'm not saying I'm gonna try to bust him up and in, or I'm gonna try to
Yes.
get him to chase. No, I'm gonna bust him up and in.
Yes.
So I
That's
think
key.
it's a matter of another whole topic, but when I know we've talked about it some, but it's how you frame things and how you speak things really
Yes.
truly matters.
Yeah.
So I think biggest thing I would tell our listeners today, like when you go, obviously loosen up in your bullpens, whatever, but then there's a point where there's an urgency to get it done. And it's not a give yourself every out. I'm trying. Like, again, this doesn't count if you're learning a new pitch. If you're learning a new pitch, learn the new pitch. Like, yes, there's a sense of urgency to master that, but don't rush that process. But if you're now working on spots and setting up pitches and mixing your pitches, or even if you just have fastball and changeup, there should be an urgency for you to hit 3 fastballs in a row in a spot. And, like I put that pressure on some of my pitchers. In warmups, I was like, guys, why are we throwing pitches that move before you throw your fastball? And
Mhm.
I'm like, why does it take us 8 pitches to throw 3 good fastballs? Your fastball should be the pitch you're the best at.
Mhm.
And so all of a sudden it got him thinking. And after like 2 weeks, we started throwing 3 fastballs in and 3 fastballs out in 6, maybe 7 pitches,
Yeah.
which is that's what it should be. But you got to kind of light the fire under their rear to get
Right.
them to think that way. So it's the same thing. I think, again, going late in my career, and again, I knew my body, I knew what it took. So I'm not saying if you're 10 years old, your warm up should be the same way. but I would literally throw 5 of each pitch. If they weren't good, I'd throw a few more, but I would throw 5 of each pitch and then go straight into mixing. Because why do I need to throw 10 of each pitch? 1, if they're good, and 2, if I can start mixing and throwing them, then I'm going to end up throwing the same amount of pitches.
Mhm.
But I had a sense of urgency to try to throw 5 good ones of each pitch as much as I could. Now, there were days, a rise ball gets stuck behind you. I got to work out on getting in front, or slow curves getting cut off and it's down the middle. I got to work on getting all the way around. So it takes more than 5. But the goal was, let me knock out 5 of good ones and then we'll start throwing things that mix. Because who wants to throw 10 or 20 in a row of a pitch anyways? You want to mix and see all the fun things happen.
Right.
But I think you have to have a true sense of, let me execute this. And if you do the boring parts really well, as you get older, the boring parts become smaller. You can knock them out real fast with a good sense of urgency and get to the fun parts.
Well, things become a lot less boring when you're good at them too. I think it's like
That
how
too.
many, like when it obviously it's like it's not fun to continue to do things that you're not good at or that are, it's like I'm trying to hit this spot 3 out of 5 times and I'm 0 out of 5, 1 out of 5, 0 out of 5, 2 out of 5, and it's like, dang, like this doesn't feel very good. Well, as soon as you all of a sudden you're hitting 5 out of 5, and because you're doing it often enough, it becomes a lot more fun when you're good at it. So that's the other thing. You master things, and those mundane things don't feel quite as mundane anymore because it's fun when you see the payout, when you see the work that you've put in. No matter how little those things are, you realize, like, look how far I've come. Like, I was hitting that spot 0 out of 5. Now I'm like, 5 out of 5, it's like, heck yeah, put a target in front of me. Like, let me show you what I can do.
Right. Right. I think pitchers, end of the day, your elite pitchers have a sense of urgency almost at all times, or at least for the important part of their bullpen. And then that allows you to be able to go to the game where pressure doesn't feel as high because you should be putting that urgency into practice and it should be the same in the games. If you're
Yep.
struggling from taking your bullpen to the mound, that is probably why, because you need to have an expectation of yourself in your bullpen. And if you don't, then you can't have an expectation of yourself in a game.
Yes,
So
agreed.
sweet. I'm excited to watch more softball this weekend.
Mm.
I'm calling in UTSA, so I won't be watching a ton, but I know Mary Nutter's going on. That'll be another fun one.
I don't know if you guys can hear. I'm in California for those of you that don't know, but the rain just started outside my window. So I can hear it. I don't know if you guys can hear it,
No,
but
we
we're
can't
gonna
hear.
have a rainy week here in California. So
Oh my God, do you guys know how to survive in rain?
I don't know I don't know how the softball schedule will be at Mary Nutter because it is supposed to rain in Palm Springs, but I think it's only supposed to be the beginning of the week. Yes, us Californians, it's like Storm Watch 2026, and we have like 2 days of like rain for a couple hours. We're not real, but it's all right.
As always, if you guys have comments, questions, just anything for us, topics for us to talk about, comment on our Instagram. I will get our Twitter up because I finally got into being able to create new Twitters again.
Yes.
I'll get that going, but drop questions, make comments, let us know what you guys want to hear. We will be back, and we are going to be back weekly now. So we will be back
Yes.
with another college softball update next week, and we will come to you with more insight on pitching. But I can hear the rain on your window now.
Storm Watch 2020.
There you go. All right. But like, subscribe, share, do all the things, and we will be back with you guys next week.
All right. Bye, guys.